Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're going to take a moment while I'm working on a customer's reel to kind of do a video that answers a lot of questions I get in from folks that have taken apart the Abu Garcia Ambassador reels. In this case, I'm working on a 4600 C3, and I get a lot of questions about, I was taking this reel apart and where does this piece go? Happens a lot with this little brass ring, among other things, but a lot of times people will get out of sorts or get the sequence wrong, and when they do that, well, they panic, right? Well, the first answer to a panic is go to the schematic and see if you can't find the schematic for the reel. These schematics are available online, and they will give you an exploded view of the fishing reel, and those schematics are very helpful in terms of giving you the proper orientations. But sometimes you just need to see it. A lot of us are just visual learners, and that's what we'll do today. I'm going to show you how it comes together after being taken apart and cleaned, and all of this has been cleaned right now. So let's just go over the pieces. We have the outer case. That's the last piece that's going to go on. We have the main gear. I've started greasing the main gear, but when you get that main gear, check to make sure that all of the teeth are uniform, that there's no wear in them that's excessive, and that there's no chipped or missing teeth. Inside that, you have a series of drag washers. I can pull those out for a moment, show you those. These are carbon tex washers in this one, so you don't need to do anything with them, which is probably why I'm leaving them in here. But you'll have one washer on the bottom. You have a round washer. You have a secondary washer. This is what's called the typical 6 washer set. The second washer, you have what's called the eared washer. That goes into slots in the main case. You have the last washer, and then on top of that you have the capped washer, sometimes called the bell washer, because you'll notice that it's not a flat washer, that it has a little bump on the top of it, and that is, as I just said, the top of that. So we have the gear stack, we have a gear sleeve, and on the bottom of the gear sleeve there's another washer. We have our bridge. This is the post that the gear sleeve is going to ride on. These are the posts that are going to connect the yoke. These are the posts that are going to connect the spring and the trip mechanisms for that. And as we mentioned, you have the case, which is going to seal all of that. This is your spring assembly that's going to take care of putting pressure to return the jack and the yoke. This is the yoke. It's going to return the yoke. So when you press down on that trip lever, it's going to pull this up. You need something to return it. That's going to be the spring that's going to push that down. Well, you need something to push it up. That's going to be the ramp set here from the jack. So that little bump there is going to force the yoke to come up and down. It's going to work in this direction. And this bottom here is going to be the trip lever that's going to intersect with those little ratchets, and when you turn this gear assembly, it's going to push it up and help it spring back. So let's show you how it all comes together then. The first thing that you're going to notice is you have this little transition piece. That transition piece, if we're looking this at the bottom, that's where your main gear is going to go. That goes on to the lever here. Next up then, find the hole in this gear assembly right there, and that's going to go like that. So that'll be how you load the jack assembly. Next up then is the yoke. When you want to check the yoke, now you're going to find that there's 2 sides on this yoke. There's an indented side with a clip for the pinion gear, and then you're going to notice that there's a side that has a ramp on the back of it. That ramp is what's going to catch the bumps here on your jack assembly. So that's going to be the back end. If you get confused, and a lot of people do get confused, they tell me they've put their gearing in, and the problem is that the reel isn't working. Well, they put the gearing in, but they put the yoke in upside down. All right, On the pinion gear now, we have the gear side that I just put the grease on, and then you have a side that has some openings in it. That's the spool side of the gear. So when you go to load this, the pinion gear snaps into that little carrier, like that. This is facing the spool, and you'll notice in the spool that there's 2 points here. Well, that's what the spool gear is going to ride on when it's connected. So that's why you need those slots facing this way. If you put it in backwards, your spool would not engage. All right, let's take the assembly here with the spool gear side facing in and the ramps. Those go over the 2 posts, just like that. Okay, so with the yoke on, you can see that the jack is kind of floating freely. Take the spring assembly. There's 3 holes in the spring assembly. There's 2 that have posts, this one and this one here. Those are the 2 that become important as you go to mount this. And I got to go in pretty square here. And then you'll know that they are flush when the 2 posts in the back here that go through are seated firmly against the bridge plate, as you can see there. Okay. Next up then is our click ratchet. You want to put a little bit of grease onto the bridge. And then you can install the click ratchet over that little brass piece. And then our main gear goes on. I'm going to take that bell washer off for a moment. You want to load the washers in, slide it down, and mesh it in with your pinion gear. Next up then is the bell washer. With your main gear firmly seated against your pinion gear, you want to put your gear sleeve in. And then you can take your side plate case, look for the 2 big holes. They're going to be the ones that mount to the 2 posts that the yoke is riding on. Slide that over the top. And that's what you want to hear, a nice firm click. So check the rim of the side plate, make sure that it is firmly seated right across, and then take the 2 screws that hold that side case in. So that's how the internal pieces come together on most of these C3 series. There's different setups. There's 3 or 4 different setups on these Ambassadors over time. This one's fairly standard and what you're most likely to see. Let's just finish this off. So the next pieces that you would want to look at is those 2 little tension washers. You'll notice that they're not flat, that they are curved. That's intentional. Don't try to flatten them out. And those are because they're going to give you tension on the variability of your star adjuster. I like to put them face to face. It leaves a little gap in the middle, and that little gap in the middle typically will give you a little bit more spring. I'm going to start the side plate cap. There is a little connector in there that's going to grab the axle shaft when you tighten that down. And now we can take our star adjuster and put that on. Make sure that you have it even as you start to thread. If you don't have it even and you start cross threading, that's going to become problematic. Alright, so we have that on there now. You can either grab that with your fingers, grab it with the pliers, put the handle on as a wrench. Any of those will do. I'm not going to tighten that down fully at this point. So last thing you want to do then is you've got a handle and a tension clip. The tension clip goes first. The handle goes next. And that's where I like to put the C-clip for the gear shaft that's going to tie and hold this down to the gear sleeve. And most of the time you can get that little clip in with finger pressure. And I like to just line the points up with the flat side. Take the nut. Just like the other, you want to get it started. You want to make sure you're not cross-stripping it. Best way to do that is to back the nut off until you feel that it's grabbing the thread. Tighten that down. Make sure that you line your cap up with the hole. Put the tie down screw together, and in a moment we're going to see, we'll give it a test here. Make sure that it's all done right. Yeah, heck of a thing to do a video and find out it's not. Okay, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave them in the comment section, I'll be happy to try and respond to you. These are the reel brakes. Make sure that they are in when you go to mount the assembly. Find the hole in the case. This is a stud. This is the hole you look for. That's the best way to line it up. And then the next thing you got to do is you have to pull this trip lever out on this model. Make sure that it is to the back of the case, holding pressure on it up. Line your stud holes up, and then eyeball to make sure that you are slipping that peg behind the trip mechanism, like that. When you have that solid seam here with no pressure on it, then you know you've done it correctly. Hand tighten down the finger screws. And then just a quarter turn with the screwdriver. That'll help you to set those finger screws. You don't have to go beyond that. And we'll see how we did. So I'm going to push down on this. Do I have a free spool? I do, but I'm over tightened. There's your spool threading. Do we have a click? Yep, the click lever is working. How's the drive going? Going very nicely. So we've done it correctly, and I hope that's been helpful to you as you go about doing your work on your fishing reel. So if you get stuck on something like that, leave it in the comment section. I'll try to help you out. For everybody that's been watching, thank you. Please subscribe. If you have a question, leave it in the comment section. And to all, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.